When you were just starting your career, did you ever envision yourself in this position?
No, I really didn't. I mean, as I grew, though, it started to kind of. I've always been a big believer and a person who loved to watch leadership. It started with Coach Knight. I remember distinctly being a freshman and being at practice and just watching him and thinking, okay, he's the number one person in the country in what he does. You know, he's the best college basketball coach in the country. And at that point, had won 2 national championships, just coached the Olympic team. And I remember, like, what makes him such a great coach and such a great leader? And I'd watch and I'd just kind of pay attention to things that he did. It was always interesting to me. He'd bring people into practice like Pete Newell and other coaches that he respected. And I remember watching him and being around, and he would pick their brain on our team, like saying, what do you see? What can I do better? And I really kind of watched that and sort of learned at a young age that that's important to, like, learn from other people. So back to your question, to ever think about being AD, as I grew in the department and learned more, you know, I have to admit it was something I thought at some point, you know, if time would work out, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you think about it now? Now that you're there.
I love it. Honestly, it's even better than I thought. I mean, the challenges, the days go by like this, and it sounds like I'm just saying that, but it's even with COVID and NIL and transfer portal and conference expansion and, you know, all the challenges financially in the department, trying to figure out how we can make it through and making big changes like a football change. But I absolutely love it. I feel extremely lucky. I mean, this is where I get to come into work. And, you know, I've always had a passion for IU. My grandfather went here and didn't graduate because he couldn't afford to stay. So he taught me about IU since the time I was little. So I'm kind of living the dream. So I don't think about it a ton because I love what I do and I'm just working. But when I do take a step back and think, like, at a football game, it's like, this is my job to actually lead this department. It's pretty special.
Welcome back to The Player's Perspective, powered by Hoosiers Connect. As the official NIL collective of IU Athletics, Hoosiers Connect provides exclusive access to IU student athletes, offering fans an inside look at their lives both in and out of competition. Tune in weekly to hear stories and perspectives from the incredible athletes that make Hoosier Nation proud.
Thank you for having me. I was really looking forward to it.
I want to start off with kind of an easy question, I guess. So we're recording this on the Monday after IU football just went 10-0. I was at the game. I know many people were. Talk me through what you were thinking when you see the stands, the way they were, the fans in the stands, the towels waving, the sound. You've been here such a long time. What did that mean to you? What was going through your head?
I'd say there've been several times this year that I've thought the same thing, and I literally have thought to myself, man, am I dreaming? Is this really happening right now? And I just can't believe it's all come together this quickly. It's what we'd always hoped for, but everything's happening at the same time. As SIG has brought the team together, our fans have come together, and everything has just been exactly how we'd always dreamed it would be. And we just want to now do everything we can to sustain it.
Yeah. Walk me through. I know a little bit about your history at IU, but you've been here for a long time, right? So give us just a quick overview of your career at IU.
Yeah, so my story, it's funny. My wife always says to me, she's like, your manager's story, you got to quit telling that. It's getting old. I mean, but I did. I came as a basketball manager. It was a package deal with Delray Brooks, which was so cool that I had an opportunity to come here, and I grew up a big IU fan. Started as a manager.
Where'd you grow up?
In Michigan City, Indiana. And again, I was so fortunate. I actually went to high school with 2 Mr. Basketballs. You know, my freshman year was one. My freshman or my senior year,
you were not one of those.
I was not one of them. No. In fact, I dreamed about playing for IU, but when you don't start as a senior on your JV team, you know that's a problem.
Maybe out of it.
That's a problem.
Not in the cards.
Not in the cards. But Delray, gave me my opening down here because when he committed to play for Coach Knight, he said, "Hey, you love IU basketball more than anybody I know. Why don't you be a manager?" Because Steve Alford's roommate was a manager at that time, so that's why he thought of it. So Steve's roommate was not a manager. I don't think Delray would have ever thought of that. It was kind of cool. So that was the fall of '84. We win the championship in '87. An unbelievable experience. Worked for Coach Knight's oldest son, Tim Knight, right out of school. We ran the Bob Knight businesses, clinics, camps, the general store down at Fountain Square Mall. And then had one of the first AU teams, Team Indiana, which was really cool. How Tim and I put that together. We played the Soviet Junior National team, and it was then Assembly Hall, sold that out, played in the Fort Wayne, Allen County Memorial Coliseum, sold that out, and just it was a great experience. Kept me in town, and I learned a lot, and then started with the varsity club. I think it was December of 1990. So my first full year working then was really 1991. So basically I've been here almost 34 years.
Wow. And so was your first job in fundraising?
It was, in the varsity club. Basically, I had a phone and a desk, and my job was just to go out and generate support for IU athletics. Didn't really know if I could do it or not. It was one of those situations too. I remember distinctly getting the job, and the interview process was good, and I had interviews, I think 2 that finally got to the finish line with, and then ultimately I start. I think, man, I've never asked people for money. Did you think that I fool them in the interview? Can I do this? And started raising money and going out and seeing people, and was really the foundation of my career was really built doing that.
Yeah, and it's an interesting perspective doing the fundraising part of it, because you are trying to build support, but you also have to ask people for money, which is a hard thing to do.
Right.
What have you found over the years why do people give money to IU athletics?
I think that they just feel that they can make a difference. I think they feel they have a passion for what IU athletics brings, and it's certainly to help our student athletes. I mean, I think our fans and our supporters really do believe in the kind of the foundation of IU athletics, which is really not just winning, but certainly the scholarships, the academic part. But really, and you can tell this during this football season, Pete, is that IU athletics just really brings the university together. And I think there's
more than just the university, it's the state.
It's
it brings
the state too,
together.
for sure. And again, you feel it now more than ever. And so I think people like to support something that they know means so much, not just to them, but to the whole university and the community.
Let's go back to football for a minute.
Yeah.
I heard somebody, I think it was on a national broadcast, they said, Cignetti could not have done what he has done without being in the portal and NIL era. You think that's true?
Absolutely. Not only could he not done it, I'll say this is not exaggeration. He would not be here if we didn't have the support we have. And it starts with you. And I'm not, Pete, you're a behind the scenes person, which I love about you. But without you and you calling me way back before NIL actually was officially adopted, and you said, hey, Scott, how can we be proactive? How can we make a difference? And if that hadn't happened, and you had a vision to help get NIL going, there's no way that we'd be in the position we are today. And so back to SIG and the hiring process, for him to know we had an incredible foundation of support set up. We're committed to football. And then once he got here, the support increased. Again, thanks to you, Tyler Harris, your whole team, everyone at Hoosiers for Good, Hoosiers Connect. There's no question we wouldn't be here today and enjoying a 10-0 season. All that's part of the process. And that's what I say to our staff a lot, that Coach Sig is absolutely the key. He was a key domino. But everybody has to do their part in order for us to not have this success, but to sustain it.
Yeah. And I talk about the importance of NIL and that. I think sometimes people, even today, don't understand how NIL works. But from our perspective, it's, from a collective perspective, we're trying to raise money and create opportunities for student athletes to have real NIL opportunities. And that's different than what it was in the past, right? When you were in the 80s, that certainly wasn't there.
Oh, absolutely. And the way we've set this up, that our student athletes can thrive here, and that certainly the NIL opportunities that we have are competitive with the rest of the league and the rest of the country, it means something. And it's just part of the whole package. Our package, we still talk about academics and the incredible academic opportunity here. Certainly athletically, it's so important, our personal growth. But if we didn't have the NIL program we have, and it's a comprehensive program as well. It's not just the money, it's the experience, it's learning financial literacy, all those things. If we hadn't committed to that, again, I know we wouldn't be where we are today.
Yeah, I've seen some schools that when the first NIL first came out, they were like, well, we don't need that. We're a big enough brand.
Right.
We don't need that.
Right.
They changed their tune over the years for sure.
And again, like I said, I give you a ton of credit, Pete, because I can, I think about that first phone call a lot. And I think about when you called me and you said, hey, what can we do? How can we be proactive? Let's not just sit back and kind of let it happen to us. And all of those early meetings, the starts and stops, and adapting as this thing has unfolded over time, have put us in a position where we can compete. And it's fun to see it all come together.
Yeah, and I love having the opportunity to build relationships with the donors and seeing people who really have understood the importance of this, and they're a huge part of this. If they hadn't come in and stepped up and written those checks, we wouldn't have the NIL opportunities that we have.
Absolutely, there's no question about it. And our donor base, we've been fortunate over the years because our donors are so loyal. And again, having grown up in that area, I know if not all of them, the majority of them, and I try to say it as much as I can without sounding like it's my job, because I honestly, genuinely feel that we could not do what we do without their support. And it doesn't matter. I know a lot of times people will say it's all just about the big donors, which obviously we need big donors. We always do. But it's about every donor. It doesn't matter the size. It's people who support and say, I believe in what you're doing. I want to invest in your program. And NIL is another example of where we've had so many people step up and they've made a difference.
Oh, for sure. We've seen it. Big donors are important, but we also have a lot of people who want to support all the other sports as well.
Absolutely.
Right? Not just football
Yes.
or men's basketball or women's basketball. I think we're proud that in our collectives we touched, I think, every sport at IU. And I know that's a big thing for you as well. You wanted it to be comprehensive, not just focusing on the bigger revenue sports.
You're exactly right, Pete. That was really important to us. And I think our student athletes all feel that. Certainly we do a lot of things with our program to educate student athletes about NIL, how to build their brand, et cetera. But through the collective and what you guys have done, we've made certain that we can raise money for all our sports, and that donors can really help identify what sport is important to them, and then that's where that NIL money would go towards.
Yeah. So I want to move off NIL a little bit.
Sure.
Think about your tenure as athletic director. So I think when did you start?
I was named athletic director the week that COVID really hit. So I think I was announced on a Tuesday. We didn't have a press conference, which was good. I mean, we didn't. It's not necessary, but I remember President McRobbie at that time saying, with COVID, we just couldn't bring people together. We ended up shutting down the department in terms of in-person work on that Friday. So COVID hit that week. I was hired, and it's been kind of a whirlwind since that
crazy.
point. Yeah.
You think about that though. So coming in as COVID is really changing the face of sports. Mm-hmm. That's one big impact. But then probably a bigger impact is this era of NIL and in the transfer portal.
Yeah, it's been it's a transformative time. But I say to Heidi, my wife, a lot that I'm really, really fortunate to be in this position during this time. And it's brought, for me, a lot of growth, a lot of opportunity to spend so much time around my colleagues in the Big Ten, the Big Ten commissioners, Kevin Warren and now Tony Petitti. And I think for me in this role, it's really been a unique opportunity. It's not business as usual. And for me to have the opportunity to be around all my colleagues, and Big Ten ADs used to meet 3 times a year, and it was just part of kind of what you did. During COVID, we met every day for like a year, and we continue to meet now once a week. And so the friendships, the not just in the Big Ten, but around the country, I think, not for me personally, but for our department, for our university, I think to have a voice and be involved at that level is really important as we try to grow our department. So I've turned it into a positive.
Yeah. So give me what you sense. Your job description as an AD when you came in, is it different than what it was? What it is today? You think that's changed that much in those few years?
I think it has. It has. I think what's changed, there's still the same basic foundation. We've got our same priorities, same internal challenges in terms of financially making ends meet. But I think what's really changed, Pete, is really more the involvement in the Big Ten and the involvement in the national change and the involvement in where everything is headed. And again, I think it's a positive thing for our university, because you can look at President Whitten as well, but her on the the Committee of Presidents and Chancellors, which really is the board of the Big Ten, and then my role in the Big Ten with the ADs, I think it's really helped position our university that we're really actively involved in the direction of college athletics.
Yeah, I think we're fortunate to have a president who really understands
Absolutely.
the importance of sports, and her support has been terrific, I know.
She's been incredible. She really is. She's got high energy. I don't know how she does it, but every time, which is a lot, I'll come to her and say, "Hey, we've got a new twist here.
The rules have changed again."
And she is right there, and she gets it. She understands. And we talked about NIL in terms of what you've done, and we wouldn't have Coach Sig here if it weren't for you, which is true. And Hoosiers for Good and Hoosiers Connect. But I'll say this, without a president who understood and understands the importance of a football program, not just the athletic department, but way bigger than that, to the entire university, to the state, to the community, we wouldn't be here today. And I'll always be grateful for her support in the vision to try to build Indiana football up. And it was a lot for her to stand up and say, yeah, let's do it.
Did it mean something to you when we still do, I believe, or close to it, men's basketball, women's basketball, and football all ranked in the top 25?
It means a lot. It does. We talk about winning a lot in the department, not just because of what it does, the obvious things in terms of bringing attention and bringing a lot of satisfaction to all of our supporters. But for our student athletes, we do exit interviews with all our student athletes. And a student athlete that's been involved with a program who's won and had a chance to compete for Big Ten championships and national recognition, those student athletes' experience was way better. So I say to our staff, I say to our coaches, let's not shy away from talking about winning, because if we're here, we really maximize that opportunity for our student athletes. Winning is a huge part of that.
Yeah. Look at the soccer program and diving and swimming and all the Olympians that we had this year. I mean, it just changes the face of the feeling, or it changes the way people feel about the university and the opportunities that exist here.
It does. People much smarter than me has said that athletics is the front porch of the university that brings so many people to see. And then, and just like football is doing now, or when we've had national recognition, and it's so great that we have the programs ranked we do now, but it brings the attention to the university. And then hopefully, I'm hopeful that the School of Medicine can raise more money this year because football is doing so well. I'm hopeful that admission applications are up, which I think they are from what I'm hearing. And just the overall university is benefiting tremendously by the momentum that football has created.
Yeah. That impact, even just our local economy, right? You hear people talking about the importance of the restaurants and the hotels and all the shops and everything. It just changes the face of that. When you think about athletics, let's talk a little bit about the future now. So we have time where they're talking about revenue sharing. And I think there's some of this misconception that, you hear these big deals, like $1 billion deal for TV for the Big Ten, and then there's revenue sharing and all these TV deals. And so people think that these athletic departments are all just going to be flush with cash and no problems. That's not the reality, though, right? I mean, it is going to be a little challenging to navigate some of these big changes that are happening.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, we meet about it regularly with the Big Ten athletic directors. We met recently with all the Southeastern Conference athletic directors. And honestly, even the schools that are the high-budget schools in our leagues, like the Ohio State, Penn State, you can look at Georgia, the big schools around the country. It's a challenge when you have a change to how you're going to operate. And revenue share is it's a change, and it's basically going to be a new expense item that we're all happy to do. It's part of the transformation that nobody really had planned to have an extra 20+ million kind of laying around that you could just now free up. So no matter how big your budget is, it's a reallocation. It's refiguring how can we condense expenses, generate more revenue to be able to fund the revenue share. And again, it's something that we're excited about, but it's something that nobody just had that extra money.
It's a seismic shift in how you operate a business, right?
Correct.
Think about any other business. If they came in and said, hey, we're going to take, I don't know, 10 or 15% of your revenue off the top, and it's now an expense. That's a big change.
Huge change. So we've been preparing for it. We've been changing. We've been looking at all of our budgets and trying to figure out where can we can reduce, we can condense, we can consolidate without impacting our ability to win and ability to make certain our student athletes can compete in the classroom and in every place they need to compete. And so those are the cards we're dealt. We just want to make certain we play them as best we can. And again, across the country, it's what every school is doing now. We just need to make certain that we can compete and continue to compete at the level that we have in the past.
Every school has the same challenge. They're going to navigate it differently. I've heard some schools talk to them directly, so we just won't be able to fund a full amount of revenue share, which is going to put them at a disadvantage. And so we're going to have to make sure that we have the funds available to compete at the highest levels. There's no doubt about that.
That's exactly right. And that's why, and we've committed that we're going to fund the full rev share, and we're going to continue to figure out ways to make that happen. But that's where investing with Coach Sig and making certain that our football program can compete. You can see the crowds that are coming in, and the residual impact of having a successful football program is massive. Again, we're still have lots of room to grow, and that's why our supporters are so important to us, because we need to make certain we continue to be able to compete.
Yeah, I was thinking about the football. You talked about the continuation of football. The big question everybody's wondering, you going to be able to keep Coach Signetti here?
Yeah, absolutely. I get asked that question all the time. In fact, in the parking lot before the Michigan game, I was walking around, which I love to do, and just see people. And so many people were just like, hey, Scott, make sure that we keep Sig and open up the checkbook and all that. And what I say is, this isn't a one-hit wonder. And when President Whitten supported making certain we made a commitment to football, it's a long time commitment. We want to make certain that we can continue to compete, sustain success, be a proud member of the Big Ten in the best football conference in the country, and so we're committed to continuing to invest the resources in our program to keep things going.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Sometimes people say, "Oh, you can only be a football or a basketball school." I don't think that's true. I think you can be both.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, we're committed to that, and we know then that helps us sustain the entire department. And again, we've talked about what it does for the rest of the university and the state, but I know our coaches know that we have a better opportunity to have more success in softball, which is a program on the rise with us. We have so many programs that are really coming up that the better football does and the better men's basketball does, the better everybody does. Yeah. And so we're all really on the same page with that.
Like men's basketball is a similar story, right? The way the portal is working these days, it's not just a matter of recruiting a senior in high school or a junior in high school and having a relationship over a couple of years. It's the portal opens, and now all of a sudden you've got to have the opportunities for these kids, and you got to be able to assess them. It's a whole different ballgame.
It's a whole different ballgame. It is. And, it used to be that you're building a program over time, but it feels like it's a little more year to year, even in football, which has a much larger roster, but it is a little more year to year. And, what the trick is from roster management is making certain, again, you're really doing a deep dive to make certain you're bringing in the type of kids that fit into your culture, that want to certainly compete at the level we want to compete, but understanding that the NIL and now rev share, all that is changing in terms of how the recruiting process works.
And do you feel like, give me a sense of your day-to-day work. So people think, oh, Scott's the athletic director, and they have an impression of what you do. What is it? What do you do?
Well, that's a great question, because my day, I've had a couple, in fact, this happened last week. I think I had someone that wanted to shadow me for a day, and I just can't do that because everybody has their different management styles. I move a lot. I move around a lot. I'm either on the phone or talking to someone pretty much nonstop. I have regular meetings, weekly Big Ten meetings, staff meetings in here, meetings where I check in with our senior team, but I'm not a kind of regular meeting. I'll do it because I have to do it, but I like to fly. And so, as I said, I'm on my phone a ton, and I like to just bounce around. And what I see my role being really is make certain that the department is continuing on the trajectory that we need to be. We understand what's important now. We understand what our priorities are. We have a good rhythm there. But also then just, again, whether it's nationally in the Big Ten, understanding what's next and spending a lot of time on the phone, talking to different people, making certain that I can have a pulse for what's happening. The other thing I'll add is I don't get to do this as much as I want to, but I try to pop into practice or meet with a student athlete, and that to me keeps me. I say this every time I go see a student athlete. It keeps me focused on why we're here, because I am so much in the business of our future and what's happening in the business that if I go over to a basketball practice and sit there for a half hour, it's like, man, I'm here for these kids. This is why we have jobs. And sometimes you can lose that because you're so caught up in the business.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like I feel like when I see the complex that we have here at IU, that we are light years from where we were, 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Are we on par, though, with the rest of the Big Ten in terms of a facility standpoint and what we need to do, or how do you view that? I
give Fred Glass so much credit for that, and you were obviously helpful. You were here with me as well. Well, Fred's during his 10-year plus, I think close to 11-year tenure, we really improved our facilities. You could look around from where we are now in the north end zone, the south end zone, Cook Hall to Bart Kaufman Field, Andy Moore Field. The answer is in what we did with the Terrytown Football Complex. The answer is yes, we can compete with the facilities we have. That's the quick answer. The reality is we need to continue to enhance the facilities we have, but also have a vision for Memorial Stadium. Because if you said what's our biggest need right now, and particularly as we're selling out, we sold out 4 games this year, the infrastructure of Memorial Stadium isn't where it needs to be to continue to provide the modern fan experience that we want. So we're looking at that. We had a survey last year. That's kind of the next big facility need. But in terms of our teams, can we compete with every team we have with the facilities we have? The answer is yes.
Yeah. Can you add a few more bathrooms in the Memorial Stadium?
That's been a common, as I walk through the parking lots, there has been, in addition to keeping SIG, the other comment is, we need more porta pots. We need more. So we do listen to all that, and we're continuing to try to add those.
Yeah. In the future, give me what you think in the next few years as we navigate this next change, right? So with revenue share, how do you envision what sports will look like? Some people worry that it's going to break off into a separate division or something, or a separate entity. How do you see the future?
Yeah, I see in the next few years the dust settling. I think that it's been such a chaotic time that I think the revenue share will really help make certain that that really, particularly Congress, sees that we're being proactive, that we're trying to make certain we adapt to the modern times, and then ultimately find a place that we can get to where there's not as many lawsuits happening, that it's not in this chaotic, just crazy time. And I think you'll see that settle down. I think it's going to take a little time for the adjustment. But I think what's really, I guess, one of the things that I look at as a real great thing for us being in the Big Ten is I think the Big Ten is positioned really, really strong to make certain we can thrive in this new world. And I give Commissioner Petiti a ton of credit for that. I think with all this change, he's really helping lead it. And so I see the Big Ten Conference, therefore us, and therefore the industry as well, really getting to a point where we get into a nice rhythm.
Do you see student athletes becoming employees? Do you see that sort of what's in the future there?
I think that's a possibility. I mean, I think everything's on the table moving forward. I mean, I think what we've got to do is ultimately get through this revenue share and let the dust settle a little bit, and then really take a step back and say, okay, there are lots of different ways you can revenue share. And right now, student athletes are not going to be employees. There's pros and cons to kind of everything you do. And I think we really have to sit down and really weigh what's really important to us at the end. If this goes really well with the revenue share, what do we really want? And what do our student athletes want? Because sometimes even student athletes, as I talk to our student athletes a lot and go to like our SAC meetings, which is our Student Athlete Advisory Council, sometimes it sounds good to become an employee. And then when you get into the harsh realities of it, it's like, hey, you know what? It's pretty good the way we have it too,
Yeah.
And so I think we got to take our time, get through this rev share, and then really put everything on the table, and let's kind of see where we want to go with this.
You mentioned the facility here at Memorial Stadium. What do you envision for that? What were the things that people are wanting to see?
People were wanting to see more modern premium seating options. That was a big thing. We've got a stadium club now. You've seen we've added in the south end zone temporary suites that are really sold and been terrific, both on the field level and up on the rooftop. But really, as you go around to modern stadiums where you can just look right up the road at Lucas Oil Stadium, that modernizing the premium seating, fan experience, that is a big, big thing that people want. Bigger club areas, et cetera. Certainly the modernize the restrooms is a big thing, the concession stands, which we actually, our partnership with Levy has gotten off to a terrific start. They've put several $1 million in our existing concession stands, which was hard to do because they're still part of the old infrastructure. But, with the grab and goes and some of the things we've done, we've really improved our concession services. That was a big point that was brought up in the survey. But all in all, it's really just the overall fan experience, access and egress into the stadium. How can we make it more convenient so that as the team continues to grow and improve, we have great seasons, that our fan experience is top-notch and commensurate with the team that we put on the field.
Is that true of Assembly Hall as well, too?
Yeah, we were lucky because of what Simon Scott, the renovation, what the Simon Scott Assembly Hall, what it became from the old Assembly Hall. That's a good comparison, though, to how we improved that, how we added restrooms and improved the concession stands and the overall fan experience. That's kind of what we want to do in here. But I'm glad you brought that up because, we continue to look at our existing facilities and we have to continue to modernize all of them as they go. We can't
let them
just
become a museum.
Cook Hall, which is, awesome. We've got to continue to look at ways for men's and women's basketball. What's next for Cook Hall? Do we need to rebrand it, make certain it looks fresh? It's no different than your house. After a while, your house, what's one time looked like it was modern, now is like, we better, and that's what we're looking around and doing as best we can all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I want to wrap up here shortly, but I'd like to hear a good Bob Knight story if you have one that you can share with people.
It's funny you say that because I definitely have a lot. And in fact, when this past weekend, when Marty Simmons was here and coaching against, I guess it was yesterday, against Eastern Illinois, we had a few of our former managers who were that were here when Marty was here, and we were sharing some good laughs. I mean, there's just so many that it's hard to pick one out. I mean, you just can't. What's funny, there's not that many people left in the department who were around when he was here. Time just goes on. And so it's fun talking to people in the department who heard stuff about Coach Knight but never were here. And I enjoy kind of, because one of the things that's common that they say to me is they say, why didn't someone just stand up to Coach Knight when he was maybe not in the best of moods? And it's kind of funny because they just don't know kind of what it was like. But I've got great memories. I mean, I would not be here if I had not had that opportunity. And it goes back to Del Rey and Steve Alford's roommate. And it's funny how, I'm just very, very, very lucky. And there's no way I could ever get back as much to IU as that it's given me.
If you, when you were just starting your career, did you ever envision yourself in this position?
No, I really didn't. I mean, as I grew, though, it started to kind of. I've always been a big believer and a person who loved to watch leadership. It started with Coach Knight. I remember distinctly being a freshman and being at practice and just watching him and thinking, okay, he's the number one person in the country in what he does. He's the best college basketball coach in the country. And at that point, had won 2 national championships, just coached the Olympic team. And I remember, what makes him such a great coach and such a great leader? And I'd watch, and I'd just kind of pay attention to things that he did. It was always interesting to me. He'd bring people into practice like Pete Newell and other coaches that he respected. And I remember watching him and being around, and he would pick their brain on our team, like saying, what do you see? What can I do better? And I really kind of watched that and sort of learned at a young age that that's important to learn from other people. So back to your question, to ever think about being AD, as I grew in the department and learned more, I have to admit it was something I thought at some point, if time would work out, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you think about it now? Now that you're there.
I love it. Honestly, it's even better than I thought. I mean, the challenges, the days go by like this, and it sounds like I'm just saying that, but it's even with COVID and NIL and transfer portal and conference expansion and all the challenges financially in the department, trying to figure out how we can make it through and making big changes like a football change. But I absolutely love it. I feel extremely lucky. I mean, this is where I get to come into work, and I've always had a passion for IU. My grandfather went here and didn't graduate because he couldn't afford to stay. So he taught me about IU since the time I was little. So I'm kind of living the dream. So I don't think about it a ton because I love what I do and I'm just working. But when I do take a step back and think at a football game, it's like this is my job to actually lead this department. It's pretty special.
All right, final question.
Yes.
You get to pick to have lunch with any living person in the world. Who would you pick?
All right, I'm going to think about that for 1 second. That's a great question. It has to be a living person.
Okay, we'll go even a dead person as well.
You know what? I honestly, the person that when I was younger, I always looked up to, I'm choosing between 2 different people. I always looked up to John Kennedy when I was young. There was something about John F. Kennedy when I was little that I read books about him and all that. I guess if I could go back in time, it would be interesting to have lunch with him because I always just thought he was just super smart and I thought he was a great leader at that point. So that would be one. I guess someone who's living, I'm trying to think who would be interesting for me to have lunch with. I might want to have lunch with Michael Jordan.
Ooh, yeah.
It'd be interesting to have lunch with Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I think so too, especially if they have like a truth serum. You can ask them whatever they wanted.
Yeah, I mean, someone who's been that successful and like it just surpassed just being a star, just being like an icon. It would be interesting just to see what he's like, just kind of in a relaxed mode.
Yeah. Well, Scott, I just want to say congratulations, first of all. I'm sure that you had to navigate as much as any leader has in any position over these last few years. And look where we are today. It's been a tremendous effort, and really just proud of what you've done for IU and all your team. It's been a great ride.
Well, thank you so much, Pete. I feel fortunate to be here, and I want to thank you and everybody that connected with Hoosiers for Good, Hoosiers Connect, but even more importantly, personally as a friend, you've been amazing. And for us to do the things we have done and want to continue to do, it's because of people and people like you that make it happen and our supporters. And as I said, I feel just fortunate to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I hope people will consider giving on the NIL day, our NIL day tomorrow, or today actually, because it's a big day and it means a lot, and the support really helps.
Oh, it's massive for us. It is. And if people are excited about what's happening in football this year, whatever they can do to help, it means something. Regardless how big or small, don't let anybody fool you that it doesn't matter. It matters big time, and it's how we can continue to sustain the success is to have the support we can get.
That's right. And so good luck on the remaining season. The basketball season's coming up fast. We got a lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about. Yeah, can't wait. Yeah, excited. It's going to be a
Thanks
great
a
year.
lot.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We hope you loved this episode of Players Perspective. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Stay connected with Hoosiers Connect on social media for even more exciting content featuring IU student athletes. Until next time, Hoosier Nation.